All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders like you who want to build an industry leading brand. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And we have a phenomenal show for you today. Bobby, how you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Hit the gym this morning. Arms, had the veins coming out. So it's always nice. You feel like Wolverine and whatnot. But no, I had a really good morning, really good workout. How about yourself?
Bobby actually did the same thing, man. I did do arms this morning. So today's what? Today's Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So guys, we declare Tuesday International Arm Day, okay? So Tuesday's International Arm Day. All right. So yeah, I definitely did that as well, Bobby. I had my CMOS as usual, so I'm up, I'm ready to go, ready to get it. So
Yeah.
guys, I do want to send a quick shout out to everybody viewing. By the way, if you're looking at this live, two things. Number one, put some flames in the chat. Let us know how you feel. Let us know what the energy is like. But also go ahead and let us know where you're listening in from. I think the last time I was here, we had Canada, we had Australia, and a couple other places. So definitely put those in the chat. Shout out to Tia. So I see Tia. Shout out to you. Mr. Hoover coming in from Texas as well. And of course, we have a few more people joining in. Guys, so as usual, we're going to have a few exciting topics for you today. What you can expect, I'm going to keep it a secret just for a little while until we come back after the first break. But I'm sure Bobby has some phenomenal questions for me. And by the way, if you have questions as well, this is 100% live. So go ahead and put them in the comments and we'll be sure to get to them. So, Bobby, do you have anything to say before we go to the first break?
No, nothing before the break. I would just say, as you are growing and developing your business, staying humble is one of the most important things that I think we can do as entrepreneurs because we always find ourselves getting better if we're doing it right. And as we get better and better, that little ego starts to creep up. So recently, I've been finding myself starting over, but at a new level. So I'm still good. I haven't forgotten anything or lost any skill, but I've leveled up to such a higher level that now I'm a novice again. So having that humble spirit, that humble heart, and being willing to learn and aggressively soak up information, it's a necessary trait for entrepreneurs. So just want to put that out in the air. I definitely got some great questions for Junior when we come back.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a zero behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes.
All right, guys. So we are back, ready to roll. Let's see, Bobby. I know you got a few phenomenal questions. I do want to send a quick shout out. I see Coach B. So Coach B says good morning. Shout out to Coach B. It's been a little while. I'm happy to have you on. So Bobby, whenever you're ready, let's proceed, man.
Yeah. So I'm thinking leadership this morning, guys. So y'all know this is Breakfast with the Brand. You also know that we specialize in that intersection between branding and leadership. So great leaders, I've been told, create more leaders. So today, a lot of my questions are going to be about what did it take for Junior to develop himself as a leader? I'll share with you guys some of the things that it took for me to develop as a leader, and what are some of those traits that are necessary of good leaders in order to make more leaders. Because a lot of you all are at that stage where you're hiring now, or at least you're bringing on VAs, you're bringing on consultants, and all of these different people that need leadership in order for your culture to develop. So, Junior, one of my first questions for you is, did you always see yourself as a leader, like out the gate, or did you like, I'm not a leader, the leader's in the front, and did that grow on you?
Bobby, that's a great question. The answer to that question is no. So no, I didn't always view myself as a leader. But funny enough, I've always been in positions of leadership from school. So from school, now our schooling system is a little bit different. I'm from the Caribbean, you're from the US, but ever since in school, I've always been placed in different positions of leadership, whether it is the president of such committee or the. I remember back in the day when we did sports, I was also the one of the house captains of I guess my house. We call them houses in my country. I'm not sure if they call them the same thing in yours. But you know how you have like those different, like when it comes to sports, there's like different groups. I could remember seeing that movie. Remember that movie with the dancers, and there was some kind of different sororities and
Mm-hmm.
fraternities and stuff like that. So we have like houses in my country. So
Yeah.
I was the leader of one of those houses. I was also prefect of my entire school. So I oversee like the student population there, and I've always been in different positions of leadership. In my last year in high school, I was the only person at my school to be in three different positions of leadership at the same time.
Mm.
But it never dawned on me that that's what it was. I never thought of it as leader. I never even thought about that word. I just did what I was doing. So the answer to that is no. But I will say that I always found myself in a position of leadership all throughout my life. And as I grew older and I, got into business, and when I met Shaan and the brand and all that, that's when I really started to consider, hey, I might be a leader. I really started to consciously, I guess, consider that. But to answer your question, no, but I've always found myself in various positions of leadership all throughout my life.
Man, and I asked this question because leadership philosophy is crucial. And I don't think many of us as entrepreneurs and leaders build out our leadership philosophy soon enough. And I just want to have this conversation with you guys this morning with Junior, because you might be crushing it in business, but don't see yourself as a leader. Like, really, like it's possible to be crushing it in business, be making the sales, making the calls, delivering the product, and all of these things, and not looking to be the leader in your vertical, not looking to lead a team, falling in love with the solopreneur mindset and never letting anything go. So all of these lead me to the next question that I have for Junior, which is, was it difficult for you to start letting tasks go as a leader? Because I know now you're moving more into sales manager space. You've got the copywriting down. You've got the email marketing down. You've got the sales down. So you've done so many things. And now you're in the space of sales management, systems management, and all these different things. So you've got to let some things go. Like, you can't do everything anymore. So for the viewers out there, what has that process been like for you? Has it been nerve wracking? Have you been confirmed in your suspicions? Like, if I give this to somebody, they're going to drop the ball? Or have you been blown away by the ability to hand something off to a competent individual and them do it better than you?
Well, I'm a little bit different. So I'm not necessarily that control sort of so a lot of leaders, the reason they have trouble letting go of stuff is because they like to be in control. Like they like control. For me, I've never sort of been that way. Um, I will take control, but I'm not obsessed with control. And I subscribe to the philosophy, very similar to what Ray Dalio talks about in his book Principles, where he says that I don't care how it gets done. I don't have to be the one with the solution. We just need to come up with a solution. So whether the solution came from Bobby or it came from, somebody else from the team, then that's fine with me. We just need to get it done. So I've never been, that kind of control freak where I can't let go of something. But at the same time, what I find very interesting about me, because if you know the DISC assessment, I'm a 99C. 99C means I'm all about systems and control. So what I've been able to do, and that may be why I'm not so obsessed with letting things go, is I've been able to effectively create systems that could duplicate my results um, pretty well. So when I give somebody a task to do, it's very tough for them to mess it up. So I've made it very easy for me to hand off tasks using systems. So I've not been obsessed around that. And also I understand that nobody could be you. So nobody is gonna get something like you. So nobody's gonna do it 100% like you. But if they can do it like 80%, 70%, then you can let it go. And in fact, when you build a system to duplicate yourself, you should be building that system with the mindset or some kind of parameters to protect yourself for that extra 20% that somebody may not be able to do. So if I'm building something to give to Bobby, I'm already factoring the fact that Bobby may not be able to write copy like me 100%. So I've already added in various measures to increase his efficiency so that when he writes it, he could be at 50% coming in, but when he uses my system, it'll automatically bump him up to 70% just based on the system. And that's how I think about it.
So what you're saying is these guys need to be systems. If they don't have systems, they're toast. So what I'm saying is like, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have a system because eventually you're going to want to let these things go. And if you don't have a system, the results are in jeopardy. I think that's what you're saying.
Also, Bobby, another thing too, I don't build stuff for myself. That's another thing. I don't build for me. I build for other people. So when I build something, I don't build it so I can do it. I build it so that anybody can do it. So I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. On one of the leadership leverage calls, we had a recent conversation where I gave them a custom GPT. So I built a custom AI bot that could write social media marketing copy. Okay. So what I did was I created that. I I gave it my templates, I gave it my framework, I taught it how to write like me, and then I gave it to everybody else. And I made it simple so that anybody using the bot, they could literally just type it in and it'll give them something that's very good. And I think Bradley can attest to this. Bradley tried it, and a few other people like Dr. Michelle, etc. They tried it, and it was absolutely amazing. They were able to get pretty phenomenal results with minimal effort. So I build stuff for other people. I don't build it for me, and then that makes it easier to hand off.
Mm, makes a lot of sense. So with everything that you guys are going through right now as entrepreneurs, as individuals that are developing your businesses, go ahead and put some of those questions in the chat with what challenges are you facing in duplicating yourself? Because that's really what leadership is about at this stage of our businesses. And by this stage, I mean the stage where we're building the empire. Like we've gotten beyond the stage of, do I have an offer? Most people, if you've got an offer, then you know that you've got something that's selling. You've probably gotten past the stage of, can I bring in enough revenue in order to leave my full-time job or prepare to do so? So if you've got some revenue coming in, you're at that point where you can hire people or you can pay people. So what are some of the challenges that you're facing right now with virtual assistants, with contractors, with getting people to get similar results as yourself? So as you guys think about what you want to put in the chats, think about what you want to put in the comments. My next question for Junior has to do with training. So I know you've got the systems and you built the systems for them. What's your philosophy about training? Are you more of a SOP kind of guy, build it out, give them the handbook, have them go through it? Or are you more of a OJT, on the job training, show them how to do it, let them get their hands on it, and then you correct as you go? What's worked for you?
Bobby, very interesting question. So I'll give a quick story. So back in the day, when I decided to get into the workforce, most people don't know this, but I actually started doing HVAC. So I started learning from my dad. My dad did HVAC like 20 something years. So when I left school, I said, okay, well, let me get into business a little bit. Let me experience what it's like to be in the workforce. I decided to get into HVAC. And let me tell you something. Up until that point, I had done a lot of soft skills. I had done a lot of stuff like, for example, physics, chemistry, stuff like that, mathematics, but I'd never really done anything technical. I had not gone to any technical schools. So when I came into the workforce, my first day, I remember sort of being first in. So you know how they say, well, let me walk you over to the deep end of the pool and let me push you in?
Yeah.
So I was walked over to the deep end of the pool and I was sort of pushed in and really and truly introduced to a world that I'd never experienced before. I didn't know how to do literally anything. So, guys, if you're looking at this right now and you feel like sales is something that you don't know how to do, marketing is something that you don't know how to do, copy, whatever it is something that you don't know how to do. That was exactly my experience coming in. But here's what I was able to do. I was able to do two things. I was able to learn from looking at other people do the work and trying to do it and failing upon time, upon time, upon time myself. So I learned from my own failures and the failures of other people. But also, I was able to go back and get the education, get the knowledge, get the systems, get the skills to then better my performance on the ground. So, Bobby, what I'm saying is that if you're looking to get better in leadership, in sales, in anything, I believe in having not one kind of approach, but two approaches. One where you're learning on the ground, and also when the day is over, you're also seeing how you can learn, how you can increase your knowledge, how you can take a course, how you can increase your education in that specific space so you could get better for the next day. So my answer is both. You want to learn from actually doing it, and then you also want to learn from reading about it, getting the education, going back to school, taking a course, etc. So you definitely want to do both.
You know, what's really interesting about that is I don't know how many entrepreneurs continue their education. And what I mean by that is I know the successful ones do. But if you're watching this right now and you're not in a community and you're not in an apprenticeship of some kind, or you're not actively in a course, the question is, why not? And that becomes the question because it's like, am I satisfied with where I am? Most business owners are not. Professional business owners, entrepreneurs, like we're seeking the next level. So if we're not happy with where we are, but we're not actively in a program, community, or ecosystem that's pushing us to be better, then we have to confront ourselves, so to speak. It's like we're saying we want one thing, but we aren't doing the things that will position us. So I love how you said that, Junior, because you didn't say these words, but what came to my mind was apprenticeship. You want to have your hands on it. You want to be working it. That was the old model. You know, we don't do it as much these days, but back in the day, before there was as much written material, like before writing was a big thing, the way people learned to do stuff is they would show up and they would shadow somebody and they would watch the person do it, and they get burned and they get all these different things on them, and they be hacking away at stuff and just messing up. And as they messed up, they figured out what worked and what didn't work. So I say all of that to say, where are you right now? Where are you right now as far as an ecosystem? Who are you learning from right now? Who are you learning from right now? So for you, Junior, as we move into the next sequence of questions around more tactics and techniques for developing leaders and developing yourself, have you considered yourself having duplicated yourself yet? Have you duplicated you in someone yet? Or are you still going through the process of developing yourself for duplication?
Both. So I'm number one, I'm always developing myself for duplication. So I'm always doing that. Even I mean, this morning I trained this morning already. I've already trained sales for the morning, and I will be doing so again later today. But to answer your question, I am always duplicating myself. Um, my approach to duplication And this is something that I tell everybody. And, it's just one approach. Other people have different approaches. The way that I see it is that I have many different skills, so I have many different competencies. And what I am working on is duplicating myself through other people, but in all of these various competencies. So I may have one person that I've successfully duplicated my copywriting competency in. Then I may have another person that I'm able to give the sales playbook, another person that I could do the marketing playbook, etc., etc., etc. So to answer your question, have I been able to fully duplicate myself in one person? The answer is no. But I feel as if, as a business owner, that's really and truly all you're doing. I mean, if you think about a company, what is a company? A company is made up of the people inside of it. So the company is all about the people. If you're part of a team or if you're building a team, the goal of that whole team is to be able to duplicate yourself in various different spaces. So if you, for example, let's say Coach B hires a copywriter, Coach B is looking to duplicate her voice through that copywriter when they send out emails. So when the copywriter writes on behalf of Coach B, the person that's reading the email is not supposed to be able to tell the difference between actual Coach B and Coach B that's writing the email. They're not supposed to be able to tell the difference. When it comes to sales, and this is why scripts are so important. We spoke about scripts the last time. The reason why a script is important is because that person that you're duplicating yourself through, they're supposed to be able to sell just as well, or not, maybe not just as well, but almost as good as the business owner. And that could be duplicated through a script. So that's with marketing, that's with copy, that's with sales, whether that's with an executive assistant that is performing tasks, writing emails, etc., etc. All business is a transference or an exchange of time and money for leverage through duplication. And leverage through duplication means people, and it also means systems.
Yeah. Leverage through duplication really is a concept that a lot of people don't think about. I had to take a pause there to see how deep I wanted to go with this. But when we talk about duplication, we also are concerned with distribution. So I'm not going to go off the beaten path here, but I just want to give you guys some context. So to the degree that you can duplicate is to the degree that you can distribute. So for example, if you got a coaching community and you can only serve 10 people by yourself, then to the degree in which you can duplicate yourself is to the same degree that you can distribute. And a lot of people aren't able to get their revenue past a certain hump because their distribution is capped. So one more example would be, let's say you are a consultant and you're seeing 5 clients a month. If you cannot duplicate yourself and 5 clients a month is the capacity, then the services that you distribute in the form of consultations, that being your distribution, it's capped. So duplication and distribution are linked. And that's something that I think a lot of leaders don't fully understand. So when you take leadership seriously and you clone yourself, you duplicate your excellence, what you also do is you expand your distribution. And that's when we start moving into business economics. But we're due for a break, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go to that break really quickly. And when we come back, we'll have more on how you can take your leadership to the next level.
The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right, the sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you. And they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace. And be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them. confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
All right, guys. So welcome back. We are speaking about leadership. Bobby, you asked some phenomenal questions, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you ask next. I'm really interested in getting into the mindset and some of the character traits of leaders. But let's keep it going. By the way, guys, put some flames in the chat if this has been helpful to you so far. Let us know what is the number one takeaway so far. Go ahead and put that in the comments.
Absolutely. And as we think about mindset and things of that nature, leaders have to have inward pressure. Inward pressure. So what I mean by that is you should be pushing you harder than anyone is expecting you to go. And I think that's something that holds a lot of very talented people back. I was listening to something once, Junior, and the guy said, talent is like the curse of the gifted or something like that. And what he was saying was, he's like, if you can work hard and be fairly talented or lack talent at all, but you just work really, really hard, then you got a chance, at being somebody. But if you're extremely talented, but you're lazy, you can have all this capacity and all of this ability and be beaten out by the guy with very little. So capacity, but just the ability to execute. So the question to you, Junior, is when it comes to pressure, inward pressure, the standards, inward standards, and the mindset that you hold yourself to, how did you form that mindset, that titanium leadership mindset? Did it come from just being out in the field and responding in real time to things and then just adapting what works? Or did you just sit down one day and say, you know what, this is who I want to become. This is the most excellent version of myself. And you kind of just worked toward that. What was that experience like for you?
Bobby, that's a very interesting question. And I would say it was neither of those experiences. It was neither of those experiences. For me personally, and I think I've told a story before. I told a story the last time of me going to the ATM and literally having no money after working all day and being able to see the road from the bottom of the vehicle. And let me tell you something. For me, I just decided that I would never be in that state again. I feel as human beings, we're either driven by pleasure or we're running away from pain. For me, it was the latter. For me, it was always on the other side. So there's a phenomenal concept of enemies. So everybody has an enemy. And if you don't, then you should find your enemy. So what do I mean by enemy? Enemy doesn't necessarily mean a person. Enemy could be a situation. Enemy could mean a person. Maybe somebody in your life who told you that you never make it, somebody who doubted you, somebody who played you, somebody who didn't do right by you, or maybe a situation that you found yourself in that you never want to experience again. Most of us on this call, we came from nothing. If you came from nothing, put a number one. If you started at the bottom, if you started with no money, when I started with no money. So if you understand that experience of what it's like to have no money and to really grind, like really grind. I'm talking about 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 16-hour days, then you understand what it's like. And for me, my motivation is not wanting to go back there. So, bro, let me tell you something. When I sit down and I think about what is the alternative, there's a saying that everything is hard. Life is hard. Everything is hard. You have to choose your version of hard. It's tough doing the work, but it's also tough being broke. It's for real. It's tough doing the work, but it's also tough being broke. So for me, when I sit down and I think about a titanium mindset, I have formulated my enemy to be poverty, to be being broke, to be not being able to afford things for my family. That is my enemy, and that is what I wake up every single day and I beat the sun so I could defeat and slay every single day. So when I think about my motivation is not going back there. Listen, when I made that pledge to myself that I would never go back there, I meant it. So for everybody looking, like, what is that place? Where did you come from? Maybe you came from a really bad situation. Maybe you gave business a try and maybe you found yourself broke, which many of us have. Maybe you're in a space where you're trying to figure it out and it's constant frustration after frustration. I know people that have been working businesses for several years that have not been able to find clients, not been able to find what they're looking for. You have to think about that state and think about what you don't want. So many times it's easy, or it's not easy rather, to know what we want. Like if I say, Bobby, what do you want? Bobby might hesitate and he might think, what do I actually want? But if I say, Bobby, what don't you want? Everybody knows what they don't want. I know what I don't want. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to have to go back to those situations. So when I wake up and I look at the sun and I'm above ground and I have an opportunity, check this out, just an opportunity to do something, I'm grateful. And I know for sure that there's absolutely no way with all my power that I'm going back there. And that's my motivation.
Man, you said a word there at the end, motivation. And I think that word gets a lot of people in trouble too. Is their motivation isn't strong enough, or it's just fleeting motivation. This motivation that you have seems to be one that is more akin to discipline, but it acts like motivation. It's more akin to discipline, I would think, because every day you wake up, you have the same mindset. I'm not going back to poor. My girls or kids, sons need food. My significant other is going to have, and my house isn't getting taken away. Like all of those things, that's not necessarily motivation. That's more so these things are going to go away if I don't show up. And I think more people have a fleeting motivation. It's like like New Year's resolutions. They'll wake up one day and they'll say, I want to do this with my life. And then they'll start going down the beaten path, and then they'll start getting beat up on the path, and they'll turn around and they'll say, no, I thought I wanted to do that. So they're just not sold yet. They're not really dedicated to the vision. So one thing that I would share with people is that, and I shared this yesterday on the call, whatever you think business is going to cost, like I can't tell you what it's going to cost you to be successful, but I can tell you it's more than you budgeted for. Because I think a lot of us budget for late nights, early mornings. Well, I can do late nights, early mornings. Some of us budget for, let's say, going without for a little bit of time. Maybe like I have to cut back on spending a bit. But few of us budget for losing love, like being with someone and then having that love stripped away. That's it. That's not in the budget when it comes to success, but it happens. And another thing that's not in the budget is potentially losing yourself, because sometimes you're growing at such a rapid and vigorous rate that the version of you that you thought you were, the person who you were when you had all these visions, isn't the person you are when many of the visions come to pass. And that's difficult because it's like you lose a part of you that you thought was you. And in fact, it was at that time, but now it's not. So I just wanted to preface all of that to say the next question to Junior. How have you survived, Junior? How have you survived the shedding? Because you had to evolve. And every stage of evolution, I would assume, came with another mindset, with a new body, so to speak, a new physique. Like you had to die to self in order to live this new life. So how'd you survive each of those transitionary points in your leadership development?
Yeah, Bobby, and before I answer that, I do want to say something to what you just said. So we have this saying, people will not pay to get into heaven, but they'll pay to get out of hell. People will not pay to get into heaven, but they'll pay to get out of hell. So for the people that are not motivated, they're not driven, or they're sort of like flaky. So it's like, I want to do this and then I don't do that and I want to do that. Let me tell you something. People will not pay to get into heaven, but they'll pay to get out of hell. And what I'll say to that person who's sort of on the fence right now is, you haven't found your enemy. You haven't found what makes you angry. Like, you haven't found that fire yet. Like, there's nothing wrong with anger. Control anger. Like, what situations, what person, what things that have happened to you in the past, like when you think about it, Bobby, it really makes you angry and it really gets you going. What is that for you? I'm not asking you in particular. I'm not just asking in general for the people that are looking. What is that for you? Because I could tell you right now what ticks me off. And when I think about it, when I could use that anger and I could use that energy, the energy from that emotion, and I could use that to drive me to work 16-hour day, 18-hour day right now, today. So when you ask me about the motivation, that it's fleeting, is because you haven't really found that thing that when you wake up in the morning, when you think about it, it really and truly drives you. And if you haven't found that thing, if you don't have that thing, then you need to recruit that thing. So we recruit team members. We recruit, salespeople. We recruit all kinds of people to join our organization. We need to recruit what makes us angry, what drives us. We need to recruit our motivation, what keeps us driven, what is our vision, what is the motivation, what is the mission. You need to recruit your mission, recruit your vision, recruit your values, recruit the things that are going to drive you so that you can drive your organization forward. Now, when it comes to going to various levels, it starts with a decision. Now, Shaan often says that a decision means making an incision. So for me, what I've always done is I've always cut something off. You always have to cut a behavior off. Maybe you're eating too much. Maybe you're eating too frequently. Maybe you're not working out enough. Now, what I've found is that transformation is not necessarily you adding on something. So you don't have to add on something. Sometimes you do. Most of the time, you have to cut off something.
Right.
Most of the time, you have to cut off something. So there's something that you're doing that you're not supposed to be doing. It could be watching too much TV. Could be reading the news. It could be going out, staying out too late. It could be drinking. It could be smoking. It could be so many things, right? So once you can identify those things stopping you and cut those things out. You have to do it not tomorrow, not later today. You have to do it right now. Right. If you make a decision to step into the gym, go right now.
Yeah.
Put down what you're doing, okay? Put down what you're doing. Go to the gym right now. If you make a decision to read more, forget about what else you have planned for the day. Find a book, order the book right now. Immediate and massive action. Yeah. Right? So that's what we say. In this brand, we say that you're either MIA or you IMA. Okay, so you either missing in action or you take immediate and massive action. And that's how you step up, and that's how you do transformation. It has to be immediate, it has to be rapid, it has to be shocking, and it has to hurt.
Wow. You know, Junior, take us to a break. Take us to a break. It's on fire right now.
All right, guys, so we'll be back after this short break.
Custom Model used to spit out numbers, and Mike Tyson would throw a combination and always knock out his enemy. When Mike Tyson lost Custom Model, he lost the title. Shaan Rais is your Custom Model, your Tyson. What I'm gonna give you is a marketing system that's gonna knock your competition out. So the 501 marketing system is a combination: jab, 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 uppercut, hook. I'm gonna teach you how to give, surprise your ideal client, and then ask for the value that you're worth, and you're gonna get it every single time. I'm gonna teach you how to communicate in a crowded space in your client's language that's gonna slice through the noise in the market and touch their inner souls and make them open their wallets. It is said that marketing is helping your ideal client open their wallet and take their money out. I'm gonna show you how to do this in 5 simple steps. So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating.
You know, Junior, I just want to touch on some of the points that you made, because, like, guys, I had to have him take us to a break. I had nothing to say at that point. Like, he dropped the mic on us. I was like, wow, that's so good, so great. As far as the poignant points that were made. So one point was knowing the enemy, your enemy. I think that's so powerful, because sometimes we don't want to go where the dragon may rest, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, a lot of us have that thing. We know what that thing is that ticks us off. The problem is we're afraid to go there. We're afraid to be in the midst. We don't want the dragon breath on our neck, knowing that, you know, we've got to slay it. So one thing I think is required is courage. The courage to go back and face yourself, your vices and your mistakes, definitely the big ones, the ones that we don't talk about. You got to go face yourself. Another thing that I think was very important was getting mad. You know, anger, controlled anger is not a bad thing. You know, I would say uncontrolled rage, sure, but a very refined and focused, raw energy that just so happens to be the byproduct of anger. You know, I think that's good energy. We call that transmutation, taking one energy or one motivation and using it for whatever you want to use it for. So as we move into the last segment of this, I'd like us to make a pivot, a small pivot towards action. So when you take action as a leader, Junior, what do you think about? Do you think about your staff first? Like, how's this going to affect my team? Do you think about your family first? Do you think about the mission? As a decision maker and action taker and leader, how do you prioritize your thought process when taking immediate massive action? Or do you just not think? Let the cards lay.
Okay, so we're still talking about business here, right? Because
Yes.
I mean, the way I handle my family is different from business. So family is family. Family is number one. So family to me will always come above business. Um, but if we're talking about business, I have a nice balance that I use. Okay, so there's something called the macro and the micro. Okay, so I'm not gonna get too deep, but the biggest mistake I see a lot of strategic thinkers, leaders, etc., doing is they will take a lot of actions in the micro that ultimately affects the macro. So micro means a small scale, macro means the large scale. So in other words, you might, for example, let's say Bobby's running his organization, and Bobby has a VA that's doing sales. VA is doing 100 calls a day, but the VA is a VA. The VA, in addition to sales, the VA is also doing something else. So let's say Bobby decides, you know what, I need to get some document printed, or I need to get some document done. And Bobby decides to take the VA from the sales for the day, and he decides to put the VA to do the document. That's a small action, okay? But sometimes small actions like that can affect the entire chain within the organization, literally, especially when you're dealing with a system. For example, if you built out a system for, let's say, a webinar or something of that sort, if you change one thing in that system, Bobby, you affect the entire system that has been built. Like, let's say you change anything at all, whether it's a date or it is the way that you do something, the way that you present, the place or the time that you present, anything that you do, it immediately affects the entire sequence. Okay. And what has to happen to fix the sequence? The staff that were probably doing, let's say, sales, have to go back and they have to fix the automations and fix the sequences,
Yeah.
allocate for one small shift that you made. It could just be the time. So let's say maybe you're starting at, let's say, 7 a.m. And you say, you know what, guys, I want to start at 8 a.m. To you, as the leader, that might seem like, okay, that's just like 1 hour difference. That's no big deal. That's like a small action. To the team, that small action means that they have to change the time that all of the emails go out. They have to readjust like 3, 4 sequences. They have to readjust something else. And then if they were doing one task over here, they have to leave this task. So that task gets left behind so that the new task that you've created for them could be catered to. So the small action that you took in the micro affects the organization on a macro. That
Right.
makes So for me, when I do stuff, I think about the micro and the macro. So I tell myself, okay, if I ask Bobby to do this, how is this affected? Because business is like, if you ever seen like this, there's a little picture where it's like a chessboard that has like 3, 5 layers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chessboard on top of a chessboard on top of another chessboard. So when you move the little piece at the bottom, it can affect one of the pieces at the top.
Right.
But if you're not the kind of leader that can see this, then it's like things start to go crazy and you don't understand why. Like things just don't make sense and you don't understand why. But the reason why is because you did one small action at the wrong time that affected a whole, like maybe like 10 other actions that was taking place. So when I decide to do stuff, Bobby, I think about the micro and the macro. How can I do things in the micro that has the least amount of impact on the macro so that the business can still run, but I can still do this action without affecting everybody else? Now, another important thing is sequencing. So it might not be the right time to do something. So you might be able to do the right thing. You might be a visionary with the right idea, okay? But if you do the right thing at the wrong time, it doesn't work.
Right.
Sequencing is very important in business and in life in general. We try to do move number 5 in move number 2, and it doesn't end up well. You have to do move number 5 at move number 5. You don't do move number 5 at move number 7, and you don't do move number 7 at move number 2. So what is the right sequence? What should take place? So maybe instead of Bobby asking the VA to do the document, maybe Bobby should, number one, ensure that the VA has completed all of her tasks, or Bobby could let her know in advance, I only want you to tackle 50 calls today, spend the rest of the day doing this, and split this task over 2 days so that you could still get the same number of calls done over the amount of days, but you could still get this task done over 2 days as opposed to one and messing everything up. So what's the right sequencing for the task that you're asking people to do? That's what I think about.
You know,
And yeah, go ahead.
Junior, because I want to point this out. That's where I saw a lot of entrepreneurs failing when I was doing more CFO work. So I would come in and I would be working with small organizations, and they were messing up the sequencing piece. They would get the website before they had the offer. They would have they would have a VA doing something that they didn't know how to do themselves. So they had no way to manage them, oversee them, or enforce standards. They would borrow money before they knew what they were going to invest the money on. So they made frivolous investments, like bad investments. And then when they knew what they really needed to spend the money on, all their money was spent. And they were paying on things that they bought, say 6 months ago, that they actively can't use. Will they need it eventually? Sure. But they can't use it right now. And they're paying for it right now. And the money that they could be using to invest in, they don't have, because the asset that they bought is not generating a return on investment because the asset was purchased out of sequence. So just to say that once more, a little bit slower, if you buy the website first, but you don't have any copy, the website's supposed to give you a return on investment. Let's say you spent $20,000 to get this done, $60,000 to get this done, maybe $5,000 to get it done, whatever you spent. If it's not giving you a return on investment, and then you realize that you need a copywriter and you realize that you need copy, but you made a $5,000 investment, and the copywriter is saying, hey, I will do this for you, but it's going to cost you $3,000. You don't have the $3,000 because you spent $5,000 on the website. So what I'm saying is that's where a lot of people are getting hung up. So I'm definitely about to turn it back over to you, Junior, but I just wanted people to know that there is a process and a systematic approach to business. And if you don't know what you don't know and you're unaware of how these things connect, it's a tough time. So turning it back over to you, Junior, I think I caught you in mid-thought, but you were saying something along the lines that the sequence is very important. And if you do things out of order, it's also going to have an impact on the business, and that micro and macro decision-making need to be understood comprehensively in order for the overall organization to be effective. So that was kind of your train of thought.
Yeah. So I wanna let's talk to the visionaries in the room for a little while. So business is not only about systems. So you have to balance emotion with logic. So we spoke about the logical part. Let's talk about the emotional part. Let's talk about the dream part. So when I think about task, if I'm approaching somebody to do a task, I've already thought about the logic. But if I'm talking to somebody, like, let's say somebody that is driven by emotion, or somebody that is driven by the dream. So as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, as business owners, we have to learn how to speak two languages. We have to learn how to speak the logical, systematic language, but we also have to learn how to speak the dream language. So in talking to a team member, I'm trying to figure out, well, what motivates this person to do something. So what is motivating them? What is driving them? What is the dream? What does that person ultimately want? If I'm gonna say, Bobby, I need you to do a task that Bobby may not fully understand, I'm thinking to myself, how does this task help Bobby to accomplish his goals? It's not about me, it's about him. So how can I say something? How can I speak the vision, the mission, the dream into Bobby, okay, so that Bobby can see how this action directly fits into his goals. So that when he takes this action, he doesn't just take the action, he takes the action with the same amount of passion, the same amount of drive, the same amount of clarity, the same amount of conviction as I would, as you would, right? As you would as a leader, because the leader, you're driving the culture. Okay, so you're driving the culture, you're driving the energy, you're driving the values, you're driving the dream, you're driving the spirit of the organization. But you also have to be able to, balance between the logic and the emotion. Talk to the logical people in logic so that it actually makes sense, so that you don't, upset them. Because trust me, like having to go back and fix systems and stuff like that, it can be very frustrating, especially when you've built it. But you also want to have the nice balance to where you could talk to, somebody who may be a high I or a high D, who doesn't necessarily understand the systems, but they are driven by the vision and the mission. So how does this vision, how does this action lead to us accomplishing this vision, this mission, and us taking the organization to the next level?
Man. Wow, guys. I can't believe it's 9 a.m. already. This has been your Breakfast with the Brand. I'm looking forward to being back with Junior Frederick, the Junior Frederick, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So that's the new time, 8 a.m., 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And do you have anything, last words for the people, Junior? You crushed it today, brother. Answered all my questions. It was an absolute phenomenal call.
Yeah, the only words I have for the people is just, thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate you being here. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And what I would say today is definitely learn how to speak to yourself in that dream language. So inspire yourself today. Go out and do something new. Make a decision and take immediate and massive action in the direction of that decision. And let's grow.